What's up everyone? Alex here. Whether you fancy yourself protecting your allies from incoming damage, healing them, or decimating monsters, it's clear that classes and jobs are at the heart of some of the best RPGs out there. And since I love Japanese-style RPGs and Metaphor ReFantazio got its own version of this system, I thought it'd be cool to share some of my favorite games that put classes and jobs at the forefront. And speaking of, this video is sponsored by Sega Atlas, who want me to remind you that Metaphor ReFantazio does have its own job/class system in the form of archetypes. What makes Metaphor's archetype system unique from Persona is that every single character can switch between different archetypes, provided that they've unlocked them. And much like many of the other games featured here, you're also able to inherit skills from different archetypes. But what's cool about Metaphor ReFantazio's archetypes is that they can become even more powerful, not just by ranking them up, but by also improving your relationships with your followers, which unlocks an advanced archetype. And let me tell you this, it's so much fun unlocking new archetypes, and the build diversity that you're able to create with them will make you feel powerful as you decimate the waves of enemies in front of you. And after playing the demo for the game, I can honestly say that Metaphor ReFantazio is revolutionizing turn-based JRPGs, not just through its incredible archetype system, but through the synergy between its action and turn-based combat as well. So if this all sounds great to you, you'll be happy to know that Metaphor ReFantazio is out right now on Xbox and Windows PC. While Final Fantasy V isn't the first game in the franchise to have invented the job system, it's arguably the one that created the template that most build off of. What made Final Fantasy V truly stand out and take the concept to the next level was that it added a bit of customization to create synergy between the jobs. It did this by allowing abilities to cross over, creating crazy combinations. Want a thief that can punch like a monk? Go for it. Would you rather your knight dual-wielded swords? No problem. How about getting silly and just giving your white mage the ability to jump like a dragoon? You do you. It's been a joy over the years to see more and more games build upon this foundation even further, and some of them are even featured on this list. And the game holds up nicely to boot. If you missed out on this amazing game, be sure to pick up the Pixel remaster if you haven't. I promise that you won't be disappointed. Aside from its incredibly philosophical premise, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 boasted a memorable main cast, an organized questing system that helped you make better decisions as to which ones to partake in, and of course, an amazing class system. I first found out about this while playing the game. I try to go in games blind, and when I finally got a chance to play with it, I just fell in love with it instantly. As you can imagine, every class in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 plays differently, with traditional roles at the core of their design as either a tank, healer, or damage dealer. But more than that, each character has different affinities to each class, which determine how much time it'll take to learn them. Nonetheless, there was something addicting about making characters learn as many classes as possible in order to create a flexible party that can take on a myriad of different challenges. And let's not forget another thing that makes Xenoblade Chronicles 3 unique: having a full party of 7 playable characters all out at once. Now that is a lot of combinations of different classes right then and there. I know Stranger Paradise Final Fantasy Origins was seen as kind of one big joke when it was first revealed, but I gotta be honest and say that I just love this game. Now, when I say that, I don't just mean because of all the chaos memes, although that does help. I just genuinely love playing Stranger Paradise. The fast combat, mixed with the traditional Final Fantasy job system, made this game a blast to play. As you traverse through the different areas, all of which are inspired by different games in the Final Fantasy series, you're able to level up multiple jobs and expand your moveset dramatically. You're also able to seamlessly switch between 2 jobs during combat, meaning you'll have to think carefully about the strengths and weaknesses of each class before deciding which to settle on. I've always wanted to play an action game that utilized the job system in such a creative way, and I'm happy to say that Stranger of Paradise is the game I've always been waiting for. If you look at Team Asano's games, it's pretty obvious that this production team just absolutely loves the job system. But I'm bringing up Octopath Traveler 2 here because it's not only my 2023 Game of the Year, sorry Baldur's Gate 3, but it also takes some of its bold new ideas on traditional jobs and improves upon them dramatically. Unlike other games, your character's base job also determines what kinds of interactions you can have with NPCs in the world. Want to haggle for a lower price to get an important item someone has? Or would you rather just pick their pockets and have them be none the wiser? There's also the little changes in the way each job is designed, as well as the introduction of the new latent power abilities, which helps synergize both a character's primary job with their secondary. Octopath Traveler 2 does a lot of really cool things to push the job system forward in its own meaningful ways. And the more times I play it, and yes, I am replaying the game when I have the time, the more fun I have finding really cool combinations that make me appreciate the game even more. And to think, I haven't even talked about the hidden details in the background that lorehounds will love, as well as the epic road to its amazing true conclusion. I know I've said it a few times already, but if you've never played this game and fancy yourself a turn-based RPG fan, you owe it to yourself to play Octopath Traveler 2. I know that Brandon from Just the Gems is a huge advocate of this game, so I think he'd be happy to know that Harvestella is also one of my favorite games that tried to do something new to an established genre. Many people know it as a game similar to Stardew Valley and the Rune Factory series, but not many know that Harvestella also features a job system. Harvestella lets you equip 3 different jobs at once, and you earn job points that you can spend to unlock new abilities and passives. However, in the spirit of most Square Enix action RPGs, Harvestella really isn't about allowing you to create custom combos by switching between your different jobs. Instead, it's there to give you different options to face different types of enemies, which actually work really well. It's in this sense that you have to make sure that the jobs you have equipped are up to the task of defeating the enemies you're facing, and that's on top of other considerations, such as making sure you've got enough provisions to last your entire run. But perhaps the biggest draw for Harvestella to me, aside from the job system, is its somewhat melancholy story, which contrasts heavily with the other games in the genre. And if you manage to get to the end and unravel the mystery behind the season of death plaguing the world, you might find yourself having fallen in love with this game, just as much as I have. If Final Fantasy V set the foundation for how jobs could be customized, then it was Final Fantasy Tactics that blew the door open with how crazy things can really get. Something that made leveling jobs fun was the ability to unlock brand new jobs simply by playing different ones. For instance, if you want to unlock the Dragoon, you first had to get Thief to level 4, and if you wanted to unlock Bard, you needed to level up both Summoner and Orator to level 5. And unlike Final Fantasy V, which only allowed you to transfer over one single ability, you're able to equip 5 different abilities all at once in Final Fantasy Tactics as long as you fully learned that ability. This meant that if you knew what you were doing and learned the right jobs and abilities, you could create some seriously overpowered builds that could steamroll even the toughest sections. A lot has been said about how great the storytelling in Final Fantasy Tactics is, but not enough has been said about how incredibly fun and in-depth the job and ability systems truly are. Generally speaking, games with job or class systems are often designed so that they function the same regardless of who's equipped them. To use an example, a thief is a thief regardless of who has it equipped in Final Fantasy V. This is what makes Visions of Mana stand out, as classes are defined by the elements equipped to your characters, with each element granting each character a completely unique class. For example, when Val has Wind equipped, he becomes a Rune Knight, but if that same element is given to Karina, she becomes a Dancer instead. This means that no 2 characters will have the same classes, and all of them will play differently from each other. Something else I enjoyed about Visions of Mana is how class progression is based on exploration as opposed to the traditional experience/leveling grind. You can earn elemental points by scouring each map and finding elemental stones, making exploration just as fun and rewarding as the combat itself. And for turn-based enthusiasts, action RPGs can be a bit intimidating. But Visions of Mana was designed from the ground up to be one of the most approachable for that crowd, especially thanks to its slower combat pace, an increased emphasis on exploration, and being able to linger in the ring menus without having to worry about getting beat up in real time. All of these elements come together to make this an incredible return for a classic series. When I reflect on Fire Emblem Three Houses, the feeling that most represents my experience with it would have to be the sense of freedom I had in how I wanted to play the game. It's a game that provides an ample amount of decision making, from which house I wanted to side with, to the way I wanted Byleths to come across to the people around them. And perhaps the most important choice of them all are assigning classes for the characters I recruited. Something I really enjoyed about the class system was how it was integrated into the game's world. Rather than just being some random thing you can do, they're presented as tests your students have to pass in order to unlock them. It might sound like a minor detail, but it does a lot to bring you in and make you feel like a part of the world. I also enjoyed the sense of progression you get from class advancement. Instead of a linear progression, classes can fork into different varieties, including a better version of the original class, like how a thief could become a cooler looking and more capable assassin. I wish more games would do this, as it feels rewarding to have a character stick to a specific style and allow for a bit of nuance as to how to play them based on the class that succeeds them. It just goes to show that, along with its incredible class system, Fire Emblem Three Houses will probably stand the test of time as one of the best games in the series. Admittedly, when I started thinking about games with job/class systems that I wanted to talk about, Final Fantasy X-2 was right up there as one of my first picks. Many years later, I'm able to look past the Charlie's Angels-esque thematics that dominated the early game, and are now able to appreciate the sheer elegance of its dress spheres and how those synergize with the garment grids. This unique system, which took into account your movement across the garment grid as you changed jobs, encouraged build diversity in a way that still managed to retain the game's difficulty. These days, players are given too many options, making games too easy. But Final Fantasy X-2 featured the right amount of customization and restraint that its combat's return to the tried-and-true ATB system just echoed how much appreciation its team had for the legacy of the series. When I replayed the remastered version of Final Fantasy X-2, it reminded me of how much fun it was to just switch and swap different jobs to make them more powerful. And the way that each job changes the look of each of the game's heroines was something that I look forward to each time. It might not have done things perfectly, getting that 100% still remains to be a pain to this day, but I'll always look back fondly at Final Fantasy X-2's Moxie. While I could have picked Dragon Quest to join the many Final Fantasies featured on this list, I thought it appropriate to instead mention someone who loves the series just as much as you, and talk about his game too, of course, Ichiban Kasuga. And for this list, I want to talk about the recently released Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, because RGG Studio really did a good job of expanding how jobs worked in this one. Interestingly enough, the biggest change to jobs in Infinite Wealth is similar to the one seen from Final Fantasy V to Final Fantasy Tactics, in that you're now able to use abilities from different jobs as long as you've unlocked enough slots. More slots become available, the better you improve your relationship with each character, via social mechanics inspired by another Sega/Atlas series in Persona. But this job system truly shines when you're in combat, which now features proper positional tactical gameplay. Mixing and matching different jobs and finally being able to equip different abilities from others was a huge treat, and made an already fun game even more enjoyable. And that, my friends, are just a few amazing JRPGs with incredible job/class/archetype systems. Now tell me, which games here are you interested in playing? Which games have you played? And which games would you add to this list? Post your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. I also want to remind you that Metaphor ReFantazio is out right now on Xbox and Windows PC. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.